Intelligence High School Debate.
Hello and welcome to Intelligence High School Debate. I'm your host, Seo Misorang. Now, this debate program is designed to challenge and recognize talented high school students here in Korea. A total of 32 teams will take part in the tournament, with 16 teams advancing on to the semifinals through 8 debates. And in the final round, 4 teams will compete against each other for the coveted title of Korean Debating Champion. And that team will go on to represent Korea in the Northeast Asia Debating Championship, where they'll be pitted against teams from other countries such as China and Japan.
This tournament adapts the British parliamentary style. The debate consists of 4 teams of 2 speakers with 2 teams on either side of the case. Each speaker should deliver a 5-minute speech, and teams gain points individually even if on the same side. The first and last minute of each speech is protected from the point of informations.
The 4 teams will earn points individually and be ranked 1st through 4th at the end of the debate. Now, the teams and sides will be chosen by drawing lots. So each school, please randomly select a scroll. It will have your team's position written on it. All right, so let's see which scroll they have chosen. First, we have Gang Seo High School. They have chosen Opening Government. All right, and the next school from Cheong Shim International Academy. Let's see which scroll they will choose. They have selected Opening Opposition, Cheong Shim International Academy for Opening Opposition. Moving on to the next school, Hanil High School. Please select your scroll. Hanil High School has chosen Closing Government. And of course, last but not least, Shin Il High School. Please select the last scroll. And of course, Shin Il High School is the closing opposition. The teams and sides have finally been decided, so let's go ahead and meet them. First, on Opening Government, we have students from Gang Seo High School.
Good afternoon. We are from Gang Seo High School. It's an honor to be here.
All right. And on Opening Opposition, we have students from Cheong Shim International Academy.
Nice to meet you. We're from Cheong Shim International Academy, and we promise you the best debate.
And on Closing Government, we have students from Hanil High School.
Hello, we are from Gongju Hanil High School, and we'll make best of our efforts.
That's right. And on Closing Opposition, we have students from Shin Il High School.
Hello, we are from Shin Il High School. We'll do the best we can.
By learning age limit of the voting age limit not yet increased.
Many teenagers are having a difficult time in...
Now I would like to introduce our 3 judges. First, we have Professor Joshua Park, who is a Director of Debate at the Seoul Bridge International School of Business. Next, the foreign language learning expert and best-selling author, Cho Sing-yeon. And we're also joined by a special judge all the way from Thailand, Professor Teparit Senamgun, the convener of the World School Debating Championship. And last but not least, we're also joined by 50 audience judges right here in the studio. They're the students from Bichuhol Foreign Language High School. Hello and welcome to the show. Welcome. Now, our audience judges, they will provide continuous feedback throughout the show in the form of green lights. When they feel convinced by the speaker, at any time during the debate, after the 1-minute mark, they will show their support by turning the lights on. But they can retract that support by turning the lights back off. The number of green lights at the end of each speech will be taken into account in the final results, so please make your decision carefully. All right, without further ado, let's check out today's motion for the debate.
In Korea, you can legally get married and work part-time at the age of 16. However, the voting age remains at 19. Citing impressively insightful remarks on social and political issues made by more and more teens, a large number of people claim that the country should lower the voting age to 16. However, some oppose that idea, saying that the teenagers lack the ability to make informed political decisions. The right to vote is a fundamental human right. Should this right be extended to 16 years old? This House would lower the voting age to 16.
The 19th South Korean presidential election took place quite recently, and the issue of voting age has once again come to surface. Now, this matter has a lot of opposing views here in Korea, and the students, being the age that they are, I'm sure they have a lot to say on the matter. All right, let's begin the debate. First, Prime Minister, please step forward to the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, we, the government, strongly insist that the voting age of this country should be lowered to 16 from 19. I am the Prime Minister in charge, and there are two major reasons for it. Well, first of all, voting age of most countries around the world is lower than Korea. It is estimated that more than 90% of all nations on this globe have voting age below 19. Which includes 16 countries that allowed 16-age students should vote. It is also the fact that many organizations in many nations are briskly moving to lower the age to 16. And the list of nations include Austria, Sweden, the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada, Norway, and so on. It's a regretful thing that only 32 countries have voting age higher than Korea, while the rest. Yes, madam.
So is the Prime Minister saying that just because a lot of countries are having a lower voting age than Korea, Korea should also lower the voting age?
It's not always going to be that way, but most countries, 90%, more than 90% of countries are following this rule. So it means that many people agree to the rule that the student about the age of 16 or 18 should be allowed to vote. So I think, well, this world is all about democracy, so many people agree to it, so I think it's quite legitimate.
Point of information, please.
Yes, sir.
You have mentioned that because many countries are having the voting age above 19, we should also not lower the voting age. But isn't all the countries' situation different and cultural aspect different? So you shouldn't generalize the countries to be the same.
Well, it is quite true that some situations in many countries differs from side to side, but we have to know that even though some cultural aspects are different, there are in this globe, it's a world of globalization, so many factors are same at the same time. And I don't think the cultural aspects that's different in here actually do matters the lowering the age. So to carry on, I'm afraid that refusing this global trend might be harmful to the country. Well, secondly, it can be an educational chance to learn about.
Information?
Sorry. It can be an educational chance to learn about democracy and politics. Learning politics, society, democracy only by book has its own severe problems and limits. Notions in the book are just words that doesn't come directly to us. By exercising one's right to vote, it is possible to learn about the picturesque methods. Learning more about politics is necessary for exercising the right, so it is clear that lowering the age will be educational. Yes, sir.
You have mentioned that the voting age should be lowered because they can practice democracy in real life. But isn't that already happening in the form of mock trial or like mock voting system?
Yeah, well, those things do happen in this country, but those things does not affect the actual politics of this country. So I think they should be the actual ones who are participating in the real politics that makes the law, policies, and other things. So, I, the Prime Minister, propose that the voting age of this nation to be lowered to 16 for the progress of this country. Thanks for listening.
All right, some of the points raised by the Prime Minister of the opening government were that most other countries have a lower voting age and that it will be an opportunity to learn about the democratic process. So how persuasive was his speech? Let's find out from our audience judges. Let's see how many lights have been switched on. We have 10 lights switched on, so roughly 20% have agreed with our Prime Minister. All right, let's continue on with the debate. This time, the leader of opposition will argue against the motion that the House shouldn't lower the voting age to 16. Please step forward to this podium.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the opposition leader, and I would like to first tackle some issues brought by the government. First of all, their first argument was that most countries have a lower voting age than Korea. And because of this, we have to follow the global trend or else there will be harm on this country. Well, the opposition leader would like to ask, there are different societies, different cultures, and different atmospheres, and politics are formed upon these kinds of cultures, as the deputy opposition leader has mentioned in his POI. It seems as if the Prime Minister of the government is not smart enough to keep in mind of the idea of political culture. Every political issue and political decision is made upon which kind of culture the society has. That's why it has been evolving and changing throughout history. Saying that culture does not really matter, as he has said during his answer to the POI, is a very dangerous issue because he is saying that he's not going to take in all the different societies, all the different education curriculums, all the different atmospheres that each country has. To the opposition, it seems as if the first argument is just saying that because a lot of countries are going to do it, because a lot of countries are lowering the age compared to Korea, we have to follow this, or else a disaster is going to happen. Yes.
Thank you. And you said that a lot of countries have all the different cultures, and I'm very curious about which point does Korea has to be.
That's okay.
Which point do you think that Korea is not appropriate for lowering the voting age to 16?
As an example, I would like to mention the idea of as the education curriculums. It is a well-known fact that Korea is actually obsessed with memorizing materials at school, and we do not have a lot of discussions or ideas to actually share our political ideologies or the ideas that we all have. In these kinds of education curriculums, where it has become a cultural norm to only memorize and not have our own ideas, it's just obvious that compared to other countries, we are in a bad situation to lower the voting age and make teenagers actually be able to vote. The second argument that they have mentioned is that students will be able to learn politics because books are not enough and it's not direct, they are indirect. Yes, this is true, and the opposition also believes that teenagers have the obligation to learn about politics and democracy. However, lowering the voting age is not the only idea or the only solution that we have to this problem. There are president elections at school. They select their own presidents by listening to their promises and commitments, and the president is decided upon the plurality. This is a practice of democracy. There are student organizations where they practice democracy. This is a form of democracy. And the recent presidential election, there was an election only open to students where we see which political candidate or which president candidate the teenagers believes is most suited for the president. And in this kind of systems, teenagers were, although they were not able to directly affect the results, they were actually able to share their ideas and actually have a practicing of voting and practicing the democratic ideas. Therefore, it seems very illogical to lower the voting age just because to give a chance for students to learn what they're learning in the books. And now moving on to our arguments. We have come up with 4 arguments, but I would like to introduce 2 contentions. The first is that the society itself is already providing the background that students and teenagers are not capable and are immature to participate in political ideas and decision-making and votings. Juvenile crime systems. We give less punishments and fines to teenagers compared to adults who commit the same crime. We ban students from smoking and drinking alcohol beverages. We require students to bring parent-agreeing contracts when they want to do something. What does these things all indicate? These indicate that the society is already taking in students as an individual that is disabled compared to those of 19, 18, or 20 or above, and that they are not able to control their own actions, that their logic and judgments are lacking compared to other people above that age. Yes?
I have a POI. I have a question. You told us about the juvenile crime system and the ban smoking and parents agreeing. I'll show you exact 3 examples that could prove ourselves. And firstly, that's over the 16 students stands in front of the constitutional court. And secondly, the 16 students gets effects from minimum ages and working hours. And third, they are the direct participants working in the Korean economic system.
First of all, that was not a question. Second of all, the question went over 15 seconds, so I would like to cut that and move on to my speech. Because the society already defines teenagers as being lacking in logic and knowledge, this means that society is judging them as being immature compared to other people. Why do we have to give voting rights to them when the society is already providing this kind of background? And second of all, this can lead to very inappropriate political processes because candidates may come up with inappropriate commitments that are targeting teenagers. In elections, the one who seems to have the most leadership, the one who comes up with the most efficient solutions to solve the problems in the society are elected and chosen as a winner. By having teenagers voting and being able to affect the outcomes, political candidates could actually come up with very inappropriate ideas and try to target the kind of teenagers by using popular celebrities, which is actually messing up the whole idea of elections and the political society. These are the reasons why the opposition strongly is against this motion to lower the voting age. Thank you.
All right, the leader of opposition has rebutted the Prime Minister's argument, saying, for example, that each countries are in different situations and that society already takes students as, quote, immature compared to adults. So how many votes did she get from the audience? And we have 18 lights on. So a bit over 30% agree with the leader of opposition. Continuing on with the debate, we invite Deputy Prime Minister to the podium.
In current situation, a lot of countries have lowered the voting age to 18, but only 32 countries, which is including our country, is 19 or it is higher than 19. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the Deputy Prime Minister, and I am strongly proposing the agreement of lowering the voting age to 16. And I will talk about some cases to back up my suggestions. And the first one is about that high school students are not different from other adults who can vote. Actually, it may be quite true that students know more about politics than adults. In the current situation, there has been a bit of problems between the 18th president, which is Ms. Park. So I think the current political situation, the students had a lot of chance and opportunity to get some information at news or some kind of media. So actually, it might be better than adults. And the second one is about, while students have just learned all things in classrooms, in current situation, different situations, but adults have learned these things about politics situation in the years and decades ago. So it might be a bit of it's kind of a bit different from the current situation. So it might be a bit more different. So they might not be the best.
That's okay.
They might not be the best people to choose the candidates that are now coming up. And at
More information?
Yes.
So you have mentioned that students have just learned things in classrooms and adults have learned them decades and years ago. But doesn't that mean that adults are much more experienced and they know what has happened throughout history, making them better than the teenagers?
What I meant to say is that they have the current situation has been included in the books they are using when they're teaching or in learning. But adults have learned a bit more different because in the 90s and it has a bit more kind of different situation in the politics. So I'm meaning that the situation they have learned is different. So it might be a bit more kind of changeable. So I think it'll be the answer for it. And the second one is about being students between an age of 16 and through 19 do have the right, since they are one of the major participants of this society. And in the law, the students can work, which means they can labor and get paid or get married in the parents' permission and do most of other things than adults can do. And it is not understandable that students cannot vote since the participant in society and owe a duty to the nation like paying taxes and so on. And I strongly insist that students should at least have the right to pick who's going to concern their life by like making plenty of like policies they are suggesting while they are entering the candidates. And the current situation, Korea has had a lot of difference. Had a lot of difference in the past, so there must be a bit more. I think that the age 16 must participate in the politics, so they can appeal their politics thoughts about what they think in the current situation. And I think it's a bit of a long time for me, so I'll just cut it over here.
Okay, you can sit back down. All right, that was the Deputy Prime Minister. He argued for the motion with many points. For example, saying that 16 to 19-year-olds, they are allowed to conduct many of the things that adults do under parental supervision and parental agreement. Let's see how many votes he gained from the audience. 30 out of 50 lights have been switched on. So that means that the opening government team has gained a total of 40 lights out of 100. All right, now it's time for the deputy leader to persuade us. Please step forward to the podium.
Hello, this is the opposition deputy leader. The deputy prime minister has claimed that children or teenagers are as capable as adults of making right decisions. Well, I want to say that that cannot be the case because children have way less experience in both life and politics. They have not been experienced through many kind of hardships that adults have been through. So that cannot be the case. And going on to our discussion, we believe that the voting age should not be lowered for two main reasons. First, the opposition party thinks that students do not have the right responsibility of voting, since they have their main role is to study. Yes.
The deputy opposition leader has said that children cannot make their own decisions and they're not as adults. Sure, that is correct. They have no much experience than adults, so it might be not better than adults, but definitely it is definitely sure that they can make their own decisions of their own thoughts.
They sure can, but they still have. You have said that children and adults have the same capability of making the right decision, but I don't think that is the case. The opposition thinks that the main role of the students is to study and that they should study for the university. As you know, the situation in Korea is very different from elsewhere. So students here have to study really hard in high school in order to go to a good university. If they are to gain the right to vote, then they might possibly be too engaged in political situation. No, thank you. Too engaged in political situation, and they might miss the time to study. So just by giving them the right to vote would mean that they would spend more time in looking through the news, political news, looking through social medias, looking at what politicians have to say. Those kind of times are very important for especially high schoolers, especially teenagers in Korea, to study. Second, we think that there is no criteria in determining what is the right age to vote. If we are to accept that the voting age be lowered to 16, yes.
Thank you. You mentioned us that when we give students time for education, they will look outside for looking for some kind of political issues. But do you have evidence about this? Or do you have any logic about this?
If they have the right to vote, then they should know the political situation, right? That's why they look through the news and they look at different policies that the presidential candidate or possibly other electors have suggested. So they have to spend more time looking at political news. Rather than, if they don't have the right to vote, then they don't have to spend that much time in looking at the news. Going on to the second point, we would like to say that there is no criteria in determining what is the right age to vote. So if we are to lower the voting age from 19 to 16, then then the middle schoolers and elementary schoolers might also say, what is the criteria? What is the criteria for giving the people who are above the age of 16 the right to vote? Then we have to lower the voting age again and again, and it will make a cascade effect in which we have to accept we don't have a logic that can say that what is the right voting age? What is the limit of the limitation of the voting age? What is the right age for people to vote? It might result in a social chaos, since people may also claim that elementary schoolers they don't have the real logic behind this decreasing the age group. So that's why we are against this lowering of the voting age. And since the Deputy Prime Minister has not criticized and raised questions about the things that our opposition leader has said, I think our opposition leader had the point at the time. So I think that's why the voting age should not be lowered to 16. Thank you.
All right. That was the Deputy Leader of Opposition, and he has rebutted some of the arguments raised by the Deputy Prime Minister, saying, for example, that teenagers may become too politically involved and they may not spend enough time studying, which, according to the Speaker, is the main job for a teenager. So how many votes did he gain from the audience? Let's find out. I think it is 16. 16 out of 50 lights have been turned on. So that brings the total to 34 out of 100 lights. All right, the first two teams have delivered their speeches, so let's see what the judges have to say on the debate so far.
Okay, I'm not gonna say very many nice things because that's not my job. So I'll start with Prime Minister. It's an honor, sir, to be able to address Prime Minister directly. Who were you talking to? I wasn't exactly clear. Your sound was being swallowed toward the inside and not being projected outwards. So from where I was sitting, I barely could hear what you were saying.
For the DPM, or the Prime Minister, I actually think you have a very interesting point to present about how young people are new ideas and modern and all these things, right? But it took so long for you to persuade me to get to that point.
That said, I felt that the Deputy Prime Minister was able to A, both respond to some of the arguments from opening opposition effectively and bring in what I felt was perhaps more strong arguments. So maybe starting off a little bit weak, but getting stronger as the debate goes on.
I'll move on to Leader of the Opposition. I want to compare you to a very fast runner. The point of the debate is not to kill the other guy. The point of the debate is to take him along with you. You're the only person sitting here who had a lot of lights in the beginning, and people started turning them off as the speech went on.
LO, a leader opposition, okay? I actually like how you explain, because I think you have passion. But the issue is this then. Sometimes in debate, it's not only about proving a point or showing my arguments most logical.
I think I'll be a little bit more holistic in terms of the analysis based on the content of the debate between the two teams. I was actually quite surprised and very pleased to see how perhaps accurate many of the green lights are in terms of how we judges feel as well.
Thank you for your insightful comments. Now we will continue on with the second part of our debate, and for that I would like to invite the Member of Government up to the podium. You may begin your speech with the sound of the beep.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am the member of the government, and I would like to refute some points made by our dear first opposition. First of all, you told us that when we lower the age again and again, then middle schoolers or elementary schoolers would assert or want to vote. However, the age of 16 is the legal age that has been defined by the government as an adolescence, which means that they divide it into the age of adolescence because they have some level of cognition skills, and some level of thinking. The second point that I want to refute is that you guys told us that students could use more time studying other subjects than political stuff and social issues. However, that statement is against the purpose of school education, which states that school is for us to go into society and mingle and prosper. However, without knowing some current issues or politics, it will be hard for students to engage in those societies and need to take more time studying after the school. However, by being in school, learning current issues and social issues might be helpful for the students.
For information.
Yes, ma'am.
You have just mentioned that learning political issues at school will be good for the teenagers, but what does lowering the voting age have to do with teaching these kind of issues at school?
By learning these kind of current issues, students will know what our presidents to be will talk about, president candidate will talk about, and why they agree with them and disagree. I think by learning these current issues, they can learn about it and choose the way. Now I'm going to make 2 points. The first point is that by lowering the age of 16, I think students can learn a sense of awareness. This has to do with the second refutation that I made. By engaging in politics at 16 years old, they will turn on the news and learn more about the candidates or current issues that's going on the society. I think that is a really important things that students should learn and should learn to progress in their life.
For information.
No, ma'am. The second point that I would like to make is that by lowering the age to 16, it can represent the increased diverse perspectives. By precise education, unbiased education, students will learn the progress or process of electing president or electing our National Assembly. And yes, ma'am.
In your previous speech, you have mentioned that at school they will be able to learn political issues, but doesn't this contradict what you just said about unbiased education? Because teaching politics in school, this means that there could be biased education happening.
What I meant about sense of awareness is self-taught education, not by school. So this can be done by reading newspapers or watching news that the school provides. But what I meant about education in school means the process or progress, how the bill is made or how president election is done. These kind of important and unbiased thing is essential. Because of time, no sir. To progress my speech, since the age is lowered, it might represent the age of 16 to 18 years old, which has different mindset or different mind that the adults have, because they might have their own perspective. They might have their own stance on certain point. So these kind of points are really important to our society, because these a lot of stance has been representing the a lot of adults. However, our students, we students have our own stance and own arguments towards certain point. So due to these reasons, our team states that and asserts that we should lower the age of voting to 16. Thank you.
All right, in his speech, the member of government has rebutted some of the points raised by the opening opposition, saying, for example, that the law makes the distinction between children and adolescents at the age of 16. So how many audience members are... Ooh, it looks like there's almost all the lights are on. So let's see the number. 41 of the 50 lights are on, so almost all of the lights are on. All right, this time we're going to hear from the member of opposition. Please step up to the podium.
As a member of opposition, I would like to rebut first. The opening government said that many countries lower the age, so we have to lower it too, right? But I think this is just generalizing. Just because many countries do it, we don't have to do it too. I think it doesn't help our country, but rather makes more problems unsolved. It's the financial waste because because by following this, we're just following the other countries. We have more problems that have not been solved. Therefore, we should not lower the age to 16. I would like to summarize the opposition. We first said that the children are immature. So we punish students different from punishing the adults. Also, they are considered amateur from the first place. And they said that the system is blocking. Studying is hard in Korea, right? So they have to just focus on studying, not on electing the president. Yes?
You've just mentioned that students won't have much time to study, getting information about politics. But isn't participating in politics one of the most basic rights we have? Are you saying that you're going to deprive the right to participate in the politics from the students?
No. What I mean was that we have to study about politics, but it's not that meaning. I mean that it's important to learn, right? But we don't have to participate from 16. Many teenagers are having difficult time in studying, but
Okay, so your last point was that students have difficult time studying.
yes, they have difficult time studying. And
That's okay. If you feel you want to, you can skip that point and move on to the next point that you have prepared.
okay, I want to move on to another point. I think giving the election rights for the teenagers is unnecessary because the result is the same after all. The teenagers have selected the president by themselves, and Shim Sang-jung had the second place, and Moon Jae-in had the first place. Yes.
You said that the Cheong Shim has the second place, and actually in the real election, Shim Sang-jung has only ranked in fourth. So I think it's kind of a difference to say that it is different with it is just the same with the teenagers and adults.
Okay, 15 seconds have passed, so please sit down.
But the result is the same. The first place was Moon Jae-in, right? So it's a financial waste if the teenagers vote, because the result is all the same after all. So I think this doesn't help our country develop, but rather makes more problems unsolved. We can solve like weapon situations, and we can have more development if we don't let the teenagers vote. That's it.
Okay, you may sit back down. That was the member of opposition, and some of the points raised include that children are immature and that it might be a financial waste since election results are the same. Let's find out how many votes he got from the audience. Just one light on from 50. All right, I think that was one of the lowest light numbers that we've had. Now we're going to hear from the last speaker of the government bench, the government whip. Please come forward to this podium.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen and judges. Today, I'm standing in the government whip, and before studying my closing argument, I want to give 4 main refutations. And firstly, the second member of the opposition team said that political issues are not that important in Korean students because they have to study. Are we machines? Like, we could think and we can move. We can move with thinking. Like, the purpose of education is to make people like grow up in the social status and learn how to live in the social society. So after we are high school students, and after 2 or 3 years, we are actually participating in the real world, and we should know what the social status is itself. And the school itself, as an education process, it should educate students about this. And secondly, the second member of the opposition team called that adults are more capable than teens because they have more time of experience. But should time be the matter? Like, think about this. I'll give you an example. 3 years of studying and 4 years of studying. Should the person who study for 4 years are more capable than people who study for 3 years? There's no evidence of this. Time should not be a matter. And the third is that the third member of the opposition said that even teens vote, even adolescents vote, there could be no changes. However, even though they give evidence about no changes in the surface, the main point of democracy is the matter of participation. And the matter of participation is that even teens couldn't change the results. Teens are actually participating in the change in the society. And that's the important fact of democracy. And fourth, you said that, the third member of the opposition said that there is a financial waste and more important problems. But I think that voting, especially in a presidential vote, there is nothing more important than a presidential vote because it links to all economic sources and all these things. So I'm done with my refutations, and I'm going to do my closing argument. So 16 is the age of direct participants working in Korea and other countries as an economic status. And 16 is the age that gets direct effects from minimum wages and working laws. And 16 is the age when we enter high school, where Korea and other countries, high school is just a selection. Not everybody should participate in. And 16 is the age when we have to stand in front of the Constitutional Court. But the opposition side gave only 3 examples about 16s getting limited by the government. And they believe that they have proved that age of 16s are incapable of participating in the society. But I just gave you 4 examples. So we contradicted their examples. And firstly, we looked at this resolution in main 2 kinds of perspectives. First, education, and second, in a social way. First, education. We can learn how to participate after 2 or 3 years. We have to do it. And the schools have to write, and the school has a purpose to educate. Yes, sir.
But what we are talking about is if we keep decreasing the voting age, then even people who are elementary schoolers or middle schoolers, they might even claim that they are also legit for voting.
Yes, but our third member of the government told you, and previously, that the law itself diverts between adolescents and adults in the age of 16. So this proves that this age limit of the voting age limit would not get decreased under 16. And the government could think, actually, they would not let babies vote. They have a thought. So I want to point you that education, the Prime Minister's second argument, educational chance, you said in the previous speech that there is a change in the. I want to say that there is a change in the level of responsibility. The Prime Minister, the first speaker in the opposition told us that the adolescents participating in the government, in the society, could be just worked like this in kind of this form of debate. But I think that the level of responsibility is different from the real voting system, and this debate. Because when we vote really, for example, like the presidential debate, we actually vote, and we could actually change the world. And we actually participate and it's actually different with this kind of foreign debate. And I want to highlight this point. And I want to highlight also that, secondly, socially, there are socially diverse kinds of people that has diverse kinds of perspectives between adolescents and adults. And they have different kinds of perspectives. And I want to say to you that if we choose both of them, we could have more perspectives in the government. Thank you.
All right, that was the government whip. And some of the points raised were that purpose of education is to learn how to participate in the real world, and that the foundation of democracy is participation, and that in itself is important, even if it doesn't lead to different results. So let's see how many people voted in favor of the government whip. 44 lights have been switched on out of 50, making the total come to 85. 85 lights out of 100 have voted in favor of the closing government bench. All right, let's move on to the last speech of the debate. Opposition whip, please come forward to the podium.
Good afternoon. I have well heard every side's opinions. The opening government said that there are nations where election age lower than Korea, and there are about 90% or more. And I want to say that, as others said, I want to say, do what is right for the Korea. And more than that, adults and in nations that have lower election age, adolescents are reported to be not interested in political issues. And there is one more problem. Low voting rate has caused a problem, and also these adolescents have small effect on statistics, so I think they can be ignored. Also, I have heard opening opposition said, and I want to say more about it. They say that people are, yes.
You said that the teenagers has a low rate, so we can't ignore their votings. Then if there's just our teenagers are not the member of the country, I think that your appointment is just saying that we should ignore because they just have low rates of people. So
Okay, your 15 seconds are up.
They are people of country, but I think this because what I'm going to say next, they are immature, and they can be affected by other people, and they don't actually have much effect, much influence. And on immature, I want to say that teenagers are too adventurous. They like something what others don't do, and they get wrong information, like joining sites that have problems, like Ilbe. Yes.
Information. You told us that teens has two kinds. I think that is hasty generalization. What do you think about it?
Pardon me.
I think you generalized it. So what do you think about it? I think you should reassert your point.
Generalize what?
You told us that there are two kinds of teens, and you limited the types of teens into two types, and I think that is a problem. I think there are lots diverse kind of teens, and they have diverse kind of viewpoint.
I'm going to have to call order because 15 seconds have been passed.
I didn't say there is two kinds. I said they were some are too adventurous. They don't want to follow what others say, so they might get wrong information. Also, adolescents are reported to be not interested in political. Yes.
You've just mentioned that adolescents are not interested in politics, but is there any solid evidence for it? Any specific evidence for it?
I forgot one word. Not mostly. I mean, not interested most in politics. They're interested in most interested in entertainers, and I think that can say politics are entertainers, and some funds are like more important to adolescents because they have young mind and they want to play. And I will finish my announcement.
All right, that was the opposition whip, and some of the points raised include that children are too adventurous, and that most children are interested more in entertainers than politicians. So let's find out how many of our audience agree. It looks like none. All right. Now, all 8 speakers have argued for and against the motion that the voting age here in Korea should be aged from 19 to 16. Now, while our 3 judges are making the final decision, let's see which side did a better job at persuading our audience judges. So, audience judges, if you agree with the government bench, please turn your lights on. If you agree with the opposition bench, then please leave your lights off as it is. All right? So, those in favor of the motion, 45 out of 50. Those against, a 5 out of 50. So it looks like the government bench has successfully convinced our audience. Okay, those were the two closing teams. Let's hear from the judges once again on how they saw the debate. Seung-yeon?
Government Whip, I loved your presentation. I thought I was in a Broadway show house. It was awesome. Just try to use a little less force. You like to use strong words. And you got to be very careful about strong words.
For the whip speech, I think all of us are entertained to it. A whip job is to summarize the debate, true, but also emphasize why your team won.
We felt that the closing government was able to provide some significant contribution into the debate in various ways. But you did bring additional examples than what opening government provided. So that's a little bit of additional contribution.
Member of the opposition, if you have to look at the paper in order to get your words out, you're finished. You will not be able to abide by your script. So think about, understanding what the text says rather than just having it in your head.
From member opposition, I think you had a very interesting idea, but importantly, is to show me why it's important. Because there's 4 teams, 4 or 5 days in the debate. Explain to me why this main idea is the most important one, most meaningful one that we have to talk about.
I would advise all teams going forward, if you're on the closing half, to make sure that your arguments or your extensions, as we frame it, from the opening half debate, does come out earlier and is emphasized, and the second speakers spend more time differentiating and emphasizing why that extension is important.
Thank you very much for your feedback. All right, now I have the results in my hands, and it's time to announce the top 2 teams of today's debate. As I mentioned in the opening, these 2 teams will go on. They will be advanced on to the semi-final round of this tournament. The top 2 teams are Hanil High School and Gang Seo High School. Congratulations. Congratulations. Kim Min-woo, may I ask you your question? You look a bit dumbfounded.
Hello, it's...
Now that you've had feedback from the judges, do you think you'll be able to better prepare for the next round?
Yes. Oh, well, after all, this is my first time debating in English, so I think I didn't do that good. But well, since I have the next chance, so I will do my best.
Actually, it wasn't very predictable for us to go to the semifinals, so it was a bit shocking for us, but we'll do our best to get a better grade at the semifinals. Thank you.
All right. And you guys as well.
Firstly, I'm very thankful for the judges for the kind comments. And I think if I got the web again, I should have more time in organizing and highlighting our arguments first and then doing the impacts. Yes.
But I think we all enjoyed your Broadway performance.
Thank you.
All right, and how do you feel about it?
For me, this is my first time actually engaging in debate, and I had a really great time. And thank you for your kind comments, and I would revise it and do my best at the semifinal.
All right, all the best to you guys. Our very first debate has come to an end now, and I must say that I'm quite impressed by the quick thinking and thoughtful insight of our students. And regardless of the result, I would like to congratulate all 4 teams and all 8 members for their hard work and dedication. That's all the time we have left for today. We have more fantastic debate topics coming up, so please do join us again next week. That's it for now. Goodbye.